Well, that was something you don't see often, a self-quieting audience. Well, thank you for that. A few preliminaries. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please locate the exit signs. Go to the back of the room, go to the halls, and follow the exit signs outside the buildings. In the event that you need restrooms, they're also behind you in the hallways out the back of the building. Also, please silence your cell phones so as not to interrupt our honorees today. The taking of photographs, particularly selfies, is encouraged. But thank you all very much for joining us here today. Mrs. Secretary, Chairman Gosar, friends, colleagues, and especially Bill's family, thank you for coming and joining us and participating in today's ceremonial swearing in. For our friend and esteemed colleague, Bill Cooper, as he's sworn in as the General Counsel of the U.S. Department of Energy. We have today with us Bill's wife, Denise, daughter, Laura, son, Clay, and wife, Samantha. Thank you all very much for coming, and let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. You know, today's ceremony is an expression of commitment to professionalism, to dedication, and service, and it reminds us that we each should renew our own commitment to government service and the commitment to one another. Bill, we know the ceremony has been a long time coming, and yet throughout the months between the nomination and confirmation, you have served us with cheerfulness, with confidence and incredible professionalism and unwavering commitment that we all have to serve. You know, leading the department's team of lawyers, it's never an easy task managing any lawyers, but our great team of lawyers, and bringing your vision to fruition in support of a strong and prosperous America will be met with the support of all of us here in the department. And your vision is exactly what we need in the Office of the General Counsel. So let us begin our ceremony today with the singing of our national anthem and an invocation, and then we'll go into our program. I would like to introduce Daniela Stein, a soprano with the Congressional Chorus, who will sing the national anthem. The Congressional Chorus was founded over 30 years ago to promote American music through innovative performances, community engagement, and affordable music education featuring singers of all ages. We're pleased to have a representative from our legislative branch. And Daniela, you might want to have conversations with the secretary, who I think spent this morning with your branch of government testifying. But Daniela, please join us, and everyone please rise for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red clear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much, Daniela. And I understand that the Congressional Chorus has a upcoming performance coming up on Saturday, June 1st, entitled Let Justice Roll, and more information can be found on your website. Well, thank you very much. And now I would like to welcome Pastor Jerry Curran, who is the pastor of the Grace Evangelical Presbyterian Church, who will deliver the invocation. Pastor Curran, we understand today you're joined with your wife, Sandy, and that you're a native of North Carolina, that you're both Duke graduates. You have been the pastor of churches in North Carolina and most recently in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And of course, most importantly to us, you're Bill's pastor. So please join me in welcoming Pastor Curran, who will lead us in the invocation.
Mr. Secretary and Bill, staff and friends, thank you for inviting us. We're delighted to be here. Our civic fathers were wont, when they were entering upon weighty public service, to appeal to God for wisdom and guidance. And they did this because they believed in a creator God who not only had given them unalienable rights, but was also interested in his creation and even involved in his creation. That means he listens and answers prayer. So let's follow their pattern and pray together. Our Father and Creator and Lord, we ask your blessing and presence upon this gathering today as these public servants seek your guidance in the performance of their weighty duties. Will you continue to strengthen and guide the Secretary so that he can continue to serve effectively and ethically, when doing both may at times prove a challenge? We especially bring before you the General Counsel, William Cooper III, as he is installed today. Will you give him competence in the performance of his duties? We know he's already competent, but we ask that you give him competence in the performance of these particular duties. Will you give him the grace of humility to seek your wisdom and guidance and to faithfully serve his department and his secretary? Along with confidence, will you also strengthen his character for the challenges ahead? For what good is competence if it is not directed by integrity and courage? Would you give him integrity to seek what is right and courage to communicate what is best in every circumstance? And may Mr. Cooper fulfill his duty and finish his course in such a way that the Secretary and Mr. Cooper's colleagues will be able to say, we can trust our counsel, not only because he is competent, but because he has a character of integrity and courage. May his effectiveness and integrity become a foundation for everybody's success. And as a Christian, I pray these things in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Curran. We will next hear from Deputy Secretary Dan Bruyette, who will say a few more words about Bill and the importance of the General Counsel's office to our all-of-the-above energy strategy. You all know the deputy, of course, as a former USAA and Ford Motor executive, but you will also remember that he was staff director on the House Energy and Commerce Committee when Bill Cooper arrived on the scene in Washington, D.C. And D.C. has not been the same since that day, and perhaps we'll get some insights to Bill from our Deputy Secretary, the Honorable Dan Bruyette.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Don't worry, Bill, I will not spill all of the secrets from your days on the Hill. But thank all of you. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here today for the swearing in of our department's brand new General Counsel. Bill, the day has indeed finally arrived. And I'd like to thank you for your confidence, your cheerfulness, your unwavering resolve throughout this entire wait. And also thank you for the 1,008 clever ideas you gave me all throughout that period. For those of you who did not pay attention to Bill's waiting period, his office was on the other side of the Department of Energy from mine. And I think there is a path worn between those two offices because Bill would be in my office perhaps 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, maybe 100 times a day with a new idea. But thank you. You're joining us at a very critical time here at the department, and one that Secretary Perry will speak more about in just a few minutes. And as Undersecretary Menzies just mentioned, the vision, but also the experience and the background that you bring to this position are exactly what we need in the Office of General Counsel today. We couldn't be happier to have you on board, and we want you to know that you have our full support as you get started on this important job. For those of you who are in the audience who may not be familiar with Bill's background, before joining the department, Bill was a senior counsel and a director in the Washington, D.C. office of the law firm McConnell Valdez. Before that, he was a staff director of the House Natural Resources Committee Subcommittee on Energy and Mineral Resources, as well as the senior policy advisor on the National Environmental Policy Act. Prior to that, he served as president of the Center for Liquefied Natural Gas for nearly 10 years. And as Mark just mentioned, he was also our colleague and the colleague of many in the room on what is no doubt the best committee in the United States Congress, the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Bill received his law degree from the University of Tennessee College of Law and his undergraduate degree from Wabash College in Indiana, where I might add he was a star football player. We all look forward to hearing from Bill later in this program, but before we do, I'd like to welcome Secretary Perry to the stage. Though he needs no introduction, as all of you know, Secretary Perry is our 14th Secretary of Energy, and before then, he was a farmer and a rancher, a veteran of the United States Air Force, and the longest-serving governor in Texas history. Please help me welcome the 14th Secretary of Energy. I'm looking at the words here, and they're wrong. The Honorable Rick Perry.
This is too much fun. Not only is it the most interesting place to work in government, and everybody's heard me say that, this is the most fun place, or as we say in Texas, the funnest place. So, Bill, thank you for being here finally. We were partially joking. Samantha's going to bring a baby boy into the world here in August, and this is your 9 months, 4 days from the time. I mean, so this is almost like a birth, and a celebration of in a way of birth. So we keep you in our prayers, and the great gift of life that you and the family are going to enjoy, and a first grandson and a job. I mean, this is awesome, man. It's a good year. Anyway, Congressman, where are you? There you are sitting. Thanks for being here, Doctor. We appreciate your support and coming today, and Neil, Mr. Chairman, we greatly appreciate your professionalism and your partnership and work together that we do. Neil's over at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and every morning Neil gets up and I call him and tell him what to do. I did that just to see if I can get that in Politico today. So we'll see if they're paying attention here today, Neil. But anyway, great partners, and as a matter of fact, McNamee will. He's not here today, but we'll talk about him in just a little bit. But anyway, this is quite a milestone, to say the least. There was. Are any of you familiar with the? I think it was the third act of Waiting for Godot? You know, that was kind of what we felt like here for the last months and months and months. And there was a Texas troubadour who sang a great song, funny how time slips away. That came to mind as we were waiting on Bill to finally get around to get this done. So anyway, we're glad you're on board. My observation is this: is that you can tell a lot about an individual when you see how they perform when things aren't going kind of the way you want them to or you expect them to. And I'm not sure I have ever seen a happier warrior than Bill Cooper. Never lost faith in the process. Never lost faith that, and frankly, and whether we were going to keep you around, and never lost faith that this was going to work out in the end. And I think that says volumes about you from a professional standpoint, Bill. That's the kind of men and women that I want to be working with. And the great blessing for me to have had this privilege to come and to serve my country in this role can be seen along this front row of individuals that I get to work with, Mark, you, and Dan, Paul. They're really capable men and women. And, we, from time to time, Pastor, we catch javelins in our day job, and sometimes it's not the most thankful line of work to be in. But I am thankful every day that I have individuals like this, and that as you were waiting to come, as you were giving your services where you could until this moment when we put your hand on the Bible and you take this oath of office, there were people who served, and sometimes in the shadows here from the standpoint of this agency and government. John Lucas and Susan Beard, they were integral to keeping this process going. Matter of fact, not only did they kind of school me, they boarded me, if you will, on many of the things that we needed to do. And John served as the acting GC for a pretty good period of time. George Fibby was in there. Michael Brown was in there. I mentioned Bernie. Before we sent Bernie over to give you a little help, Bernie was over here in the GC's office, and Mark Robeck. And of course, all of this occurred under the wise and watchful eye of a man who's been at DOE since day one, and that's Eric Figge. Where's Eric? You in? There you are. There you are, down on the end. He's my senior member of the GC. So thank you, brother. We appreciate all the. So you're taking over the office of General Counsel, as I think Dan said, at a critical time for the agency. Pretty exciting time. Did you say that the House Energy and Commerce Committee was the best committee?
Without question.
Okay, I was just with them, so I was. So what you're telling me, that's as good as it's going to get? No, they were great. They were good. They were good. Very good, actually. So, but here we are. This is where we find ourselves, Bill. This is what you're coming into. You worked with the LNG folks back in the day when there were people in the world when they looked at LNG when you were working there a decade ago, and to have been able to see over the horizon and see where we are today. 15 years ago they told us we were done. We'd found all the oil and gas there was to find. If we found any more, it was going to be exorbitantly expensive to produce. The message here is that conventional wisdom doesn't always get it right. And the reason conventional wisdom doesn't always get it right is because they don't have enough faith. They don't have enough faith in the American entrepreneur. They don't have enough faith in the private sector to free them from over-regulation, from over-litigation, from over-taxation, and to allow them to go and do what Americans have always done when they've been faced with challenges, and that's to find solutions to whatever was vexing us at that moment. Today, America is the #1 oil and gas producing country in the world. And as Fatih Birol, the head of the International Energy Agency, told us last week while we were in Brussels, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg. I mean, this is stunning information for most people, that we find ourselves at this amazing place. And Bill, you've been engaged in this. I mean, the point I told people when they were asking me about Bill Cooper, because, you know, from time to time, sometimes things don't work out exactly like you got them planned. What's the old saying, Pastor? If you want to see God laugh, tell him your plans. Let me tell you, I have so made him laugh. I mean, uproariously laugh at some of the things that I have said I was going to go do. But you are the ideal person for this job. And that's what I told the White House. That's what I told the folks in Congress, is this thing drug out over month after month as we got to the end of the year and you had to go back through that process again. You could have walked away. Now, I'm not saying I know this, Lynn, but there might have been a time when you went, what are you doing? I'm not saying you did that. I'm just saying I know what my wife would have said. Why are we going? And here's why. Because he's got a heart of a servant. He understands the concept of being on a team. Because he's been on this team before. I think about you three amigos that are sitting there back in the day when you were young bucks and you were learning and you were consorting. And is that an okay word? Consorting. You were scheming. You were working together. And here you are again. Later in your life, maturer in your life, on a team, and on a team that matters. We're going to ensure that energy policies that come out of the United States Department of Energy will strengthen this country's security. We're going to put policies into place for men and women who today may not be completely satisfied or comfortable about the security of our grid, about the ability to protect us against countries or actors who would be involved in nefarious acts to do harm to the United States. This is a team that should give great confidence, not only to the President of the United States and his administration, but to the members of Congress. Now, I'm totally biased. I happen to think this is as good a team that's ever been put together at the Department of Energy, because I've seen them work. I know their work product. I know what they're capable of. And Bill, you're kind of the final piece of this puzzle. When I look at putting together a group of men and women that I had great confidence in. And so today is, it's a celebration of, it's a celebration of you persevering. It's a celebration of a team that helped you get to this point in time. It's a celebration of old buddies getting back together and getting the band back together, so to speak. But it's also a message to the men and women in this audience, the men and women of the enterprise of the department. we're going to go do things that no one ever thought possible before. We're going to go do things that serve our fellow man, and not just the citizens of the United States. Europeans who are begging to have that freedom from being held hostage by Russian gas. The freedom to be able to not have to look over your shoulder and wonder what the folks in China or North Korea are going to do. Because America is dominant in its energy production. And by doing that, America is also delivering freedom around the world. So, Bill, I want to point out that your career not only shows a true appreciation for the energy issues, but again, that rare trait of understanding how important public service is. As I think about all of you sitting in the front row, Ted, whether it's you, Dr. Gosar, you, Paul, every one of you, you could be somewhere in the private sector, but you chose public service. And our country is better because of that selfless attitude that you bring to the Department of Energy. So I wanted to come on this stage and say thank you. Not just to you, Bill, but to this whole team that's been an array across the front of this room. Our mission, which your office will be integral of, will be in continuing to support this very weighty job of making sure that the Department of Energy serves the people of this country in a most appropriate and fair and equitable way. So, yep, this is an exciting place to work. It's a happy place to work. It's a fun place to work. And it's because it's full of talented and dedicated people with whom it is a great pleasure to get to participate with. So this is a team effort. So, Bill, with that, I would invite your family up, and we will officially sign you into, or swear you into office. I think you're already signed in, but give this to your bride. Let's go get right there. And we'll get you right here.
I have to put.
No, you're right. You're right. You're standing.
Oh,
No, you're perfect.
okay.
I'm saying you're right, and I'm not being.
All right.
Okay, left hand on the Bible, right hand up. Y'all look awesome, by the way. Okay. Is that good? You got us where, how'd I do? Pretty good, huh? Not bad. When I say, you just state your name. When I say I.
I, Bill Cooper,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. I'm beginning to think I walked into the wrong ceremony. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I really do appreciate all your efforts, and I want to thank the Deputy Secretary and the Undersecretary. And most importantly, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to my family, starting with my wife, Denise, and I've got some flowers for you and all that you suffer through. Pay. My son Clay and his wife Samantha are here, and my daughter Laura surprised me last night flying in, unbeknownst to me till I got home last night. And I might have come home earlier had I known you were there. My son-in-law Blake couldn't make it, unfortunately. And as I look around, I want to thank everybody that's here. There's too many for me to name, really, and I wish I could, because it really means a lot to me that you're here to share this opportunity in this moment. I want to thank Jerry and Sandy also for coming as well. I am excited to be confirmed. It's an overwhelming experience. Somewhat muted because I've got really close buddies here. The three sitting there, for instance, that are still waiting Senate confirmation, and I hope and pray that vote comes soon. I would really like for you all to join me. I am humbled by all the support that I've received throughout this process. I really appreciate the encouragement and the advocacy by folks who did not have to do so, but did it anyway. I will do the best of my ability in the hope that your confidence in me has not been misplaced or in vain. So I want to thank you. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, you mentioned Willie Nelson's song in your remarks. It's a great song, but all this time waiting for that confirmation call from the Senate, I have to say I was thinking of another country song, one by Randy Travis, and the part of the chorus line goes like this: "My phone still ain't ringing, so I assume it still ain't you." Well, it's been a long time coming. Earlier in my career, I came to understand that it's a curse to be a person in a hurry in a world that's not. And that axiom has been stress tested to the limit over the past 9 months, 8 days, 14 hours, 35 minutes. But who's counting, right? But now we're here. And I've had some time to think about the role of lawyers and the role of the General Counsel's office. The role of lawyers in our society has been much maligned. But as is often the case, lawyers play a pivotal role in protecting our form of government, which is a government of laws, not of men, a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. A democracy in its purest form is mob rule. The whim of the majority becomes the law. But under a constitutional republic, majorities matter, but only within the legal framework of the United States Constitution and the laws of the land, for which I have sworn an oath to uphold on more than one occasion. It's the nature of government to seek more and more power. It's a zero-sum game. As power of the government increases, the power of the individual decreases. That's why it's so important for us to remember and defend our right to liberty by keeping a check on government by demanding an adherence to the law. Adherence to the law, it's the oath of a lawyer. One need only to look at literature or film to see such examples of lawyers standing up for our constitutional rights, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. People like Atticus Finch, Perry Mason, Matt Locke, Saul Goodman. Okay, maybe not Saul Goodman. But you gotta love his license plate, lawyer up. I think that's always relevant, but it seems to be particularly so in these times. To know what the General Counsel does, you just have to take a look at the website. It says the General Counsel is charged by the Secretary of Energy with the authority to determine the department's authoritative position on any question of law. The Office of the General Counsel provides legal advice, counsel, and support to the Secretary, the Deputy Secretary, and program offices throughout DOE. With the advice and assistance of the professionals in the General Counsel's office, we will meet our mandate of providing quality legal services to the department, and I'm honored to have this opportunity and look forward to getting to work. Over the past year, I really wanted to be General Counsel, and it reminds me of a story about a man from Bedford County, Tennessee. He really wanted to be sheriff. He wanted to be sheriff, I think, almost as much as Ted Garish wanted me to be General Counsel. Not sure about that. It might be close. What he would do is he'd be the first one to pick up his petition, first one to turn his petition into the election office, and he'd walk out on the courthouse steps, and he would give this speech. He would say, I was born in Bedford County, I was raised in Bedford County, I graduated from Bedford County High School, and I have lived in Bedford County all of my life, except for the time I served along Teddy Roosevelt in the Spanish-American War. He said, Teddy and I charged up that San Juan Hill. Bullets were flying all around us. Directly, the man carrying the American flag was shot and killed. Old Glory hit the ground. Teddy looked at me, and he said, the next man that picks up that flag will be President of the United States of America. And I looked at him, and I said, go ahead, Teddy. I just want to be sheriff of Bedford County. Well, not everybody wants to be sheriff of Bedford County, but I'm incredibly happy to be the General Counsel at the Department of Energy. I want to thank you all for coming today. I thank the President for nominating me. I thank the Senate for confirming me. And I want to thank all of you, both inside and outside of the department, for your efforts throughout this confirmation process. And I look forward to working with you as we get started. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I know nobody wants this to end, but in fact, our ceremony actually has ended. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank the secretary, the deputy, and everyone for coming and participating. There will be a reception, I'm told, on the 6th floor in the General Counsel's office, and I think you all are invited to attend. Thank you all for coming.